you just have good intention, but really it's out of your hands. So don't scrutinize yourself too much. It's helpful if that's what you're doing. You're worried about every move, and really you don't know what's going to happen to you anyway. So
one more time. Let's go.
Back again. We beat a three-headed Hydra. Today, the chosen subject is Alan Watts.
What?
Let me get you that. Alan, what? Let me get you that 1 minute. 1 minute.
Give him a minute.
I've got the facts here with me. Alan Watts, born philosopher, writer and speaker, and he's good known for interpreting and popularizing Buddhism. He was born in 1915, died in 73, and during that time he did a lot. He taught a lot over in the USA. I think in the later half of his career he was over in the US, and I was first put onto him by Bruce Lee. After watching some Bruce Lee documentaries, he was at one point, he studied philosophy actually, Bruce Lee, and at one point he was laid up in the bed with a back injury, and he got back in touch with his philosophical studies, and during the documentary they were reading out some names, and Alan Watts was one of the philosophers that he was cited. And I used to like the cut of Bruce Lee's jib, so I thought I might like the cut of Alan's. And I do very much. That'll do me for a minute.
Perfect.
James Edgerton.
Can I have one?
What you know about Alan Watts?
What? What do I know about Alan Watts? Not as much as I would like to know. He's one of the speakers on my podcast circuit, speech circuit, reading circuit. I actually listened to one of his audiobooks during the quarantine. It was kind of a little project of mine. I took some detailed notes down. Fascinating person, and the way that he explains these ideas, as you said then, sort of the Eastern philosophy, especially Zen Buddhism, but not exclusively. He's a fantastic speaker, and he explains them with a lot of imagery and a lot of not synonyms. What's the word? I'm going to run out.
Metaphors?
Metaphors, yeah. And yeah, he's just a lovely person to listen to and to try to put these things into practice, I suppose, is the next step.
But you're right, it helps to be eloquent, and it helps that he's got a really nice British sounding voice, and it helps digest these ideas better, doesn't it?
Yeah, he's a lovely speaker to listen to. What do you know, Sal?
Well, not too much, actually. I'm here to learn today.
That's your minute then.
Okay. No, but I came with a few questions, obviously, since I want to take the opportunity, like the audience, to learn something about this British fella. I mean, he seems to be quite eloquent, as you said, and maybe that was part of why he was so influential, because he was very good at writing down his thoughts and communicating, right? So what I would like to know is, partially what I'd like to know about his biography is, I think he attempted to become a monk, but he was denied to do that. I'm not sure about that, if you have any more information about that. And then he became a priest in the end. Is that correct?
Do you know whether that's right or not, James? No, I don't know. But from what I was reading, I think maybe he had conflicting beliefs with some of the kind of practices that he was involved in. He disagreed with this and that, and I think he had from what I was reading yesterday, he had some kind of extramarital affair that the church he was, or church, or whatever the Buddhist equivalent is. He fell out with them because of that, and he just had different beliefs about monogamy, I think, really, just and he had his own ideas about what was what. And yeah, I guess the Zen Buddhism kind of thing was what he lined up with most of all. I do remember hearing one of his things about how I think he used to not like, he'd grown up in a Catholic background, and he used to not like that kind of rigid attitude towards sex and rule-based things, you know. So, I mean, it all sounds like a bit of a, you know, there's obvious reasons why you wouldn't like that, but if you listen to his ideas, he's got, it's quite compelling, not an argument, but, you know, the way he likes to live is, it makes sense when you listen to the whole thing.
So was he the main figure who brought Buddhism and all these Eastern philosophies to the Western civilization, or was he just one of many? So what made him so special in regards of Buddhism and all these other teachings?
I don't know whether there was more than him. He seems to be the one that's most cited, and obviously all the other names that come with him are who he was learning from, and what he used to look into. Lao Tzu, have you heard him mention Lao Tzu?
Yes.
Yeah, Lao Tzu's he's
two words, Lao Tzu.
LAUSUZ or something like that.
There was a horse pronunciation.
Lao Tzu. Yeah, I know the one.
The wisdom of Lao Tzu. I don't think I know too many facts. I just like I don't know all the facts. It's just what I was looking up yesterday about his life, but I like how he explains things and how he breaks down. Yeah, like you say, he uses a lot of clever stories, and he's kind of funny as well, isn't he? I've listened to the one I've listened to on what I'd recommend people listen to on Audible is You're It, which is like a collection of his talks. Because obviously he died in the 80s. So man, if he could do this podcast circuit and everything now, it'd be brilliant, you know. But he's got a lot of he used to speak at universities, and that's a collection of them. You're It, and like you were saying the other day, James, it's quite hard to maybe digest his ideas into a 20-minute podcast, and they're all ideas that you will hear elsewhere, but he just breaks them down in a really nice way, and he's kind of funny, and it just sounds good with it. I don't know. Is there anything in particular, James, you could point out that any of his ideas?
A few of the main ideas. Maybe we could have a quick tour around a few of the main ideas, or a few of many. We're not going to hear all of them. We can just recommend that you listen to more Alan Watts in your own time. One of the main things I think he talks about again and again is the need to be present, right? Because if in any moment, if you're thinking too much about the future, you're trapped. You're thinking too much about the past, you're also trapped. And so the inability to be in the moment, I think he says that this causes us a lot of suffering. What else is there? I mean, he's got a lot of ideas that I'm still trying to get through, let alone understanding them well enough to explain them. But ideas about identity and the ego. So who we think we are is built up over many years, and it's just a self-image. So it's built up through memories of the past, of things that may or may not have happened, or memories that may have been skewed either way. And then we live every moment, if we're not careful, trying to become what we think we are, or trying to reflect what we think we should be. And he talks a lot about the ego. Like I said, it's not something which I have super straight yet, but it's a very interesting idea about who are you really, and are you robbing yourself of the present by playing this role?
Which basically goes exactly against fake it till you make it, where you construct a persona that you want to be until you actually become that persona.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Okay.
But he's got a lot of interesting, a lot of proverbs, and a lot of, like we said before, a lot of metaphors, like this thing that I've heard him say a few times, a single hand doesn't make a clap. Or I've heard him say it in another way, what does one hand clapping sound like? And it's not his originally, but like we said, he shares a lot of these ideas. And that's a koan. I think you pronounce it as that. It's a koan from Japan. They're kind of sentences in which they look kind of silly at the start, but if you unpack them slowly, then you can get a lot of meaning out of them. So I think what he's talking about with what's the sound of one hand clapping? That's where he talks about you and I. So when, for example, if I say to myself, I need to sort myself out, who's the I and who's the myself, because these seem to be two different concepts, right? Whereas really it's just two voices. Then help me out.
I mean, yeah, but one of the simplest ones that I can think of, which again I'm sure isn't him originally, but was the story of the Chinese rice farmer. Do you know this one?
Oh yeah, I like that one.
Have you heard this one, Sal?
No.
Chinese rice farmer.
I'm curious.
There's a Chinese rice farmer, and one day his horse runs away, and everyone in the village says, "Oh, that's bad. That's such a bad thing that's happened to you." He says, "Well, maybe." And then the next day, the horse returns, and it comes back with 9 wild horses. And everyone says, "Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. You got more horses." He says, "Maybe." And then the next day, his son's out taming one of the wild horses, and he falls off and he breaks his leg. And everyone says, "Oh, what a terrible thing." And he says, "Maybe." And then the next day, the government come, and they try to draft his son for the army, to go to war, but he can't go because he's broken his leg. And everyone says, "Oh, that's such a good thing." He says, "Maybe," And this is the idea that you're not in control of what a bad thing might happen to you, but you don't know what's going to happen next. So that doesn't necessarily mean that that's a bad thing, and it's all out of your hands. And I mean, I suppose it is that's kind of a religious attitude. And like I say, this thing everyone seems to have against religion, I always feel like it's been attacked so much that it's obvious to beat down. But I think if you were being simplistic with religion, that's that's probably what they were trying to get at, these kind of attitudes, Like the idea of God is that it is a nice way to think because it's out of your hands then. And it's obviously it's not always, you can't just sit back and let everything happen to you. That's not what people are trying to say. But that little story there just lets you know that you as long as you just have good intention, but really it's out of your hands. So don't scrutinize yourself too much. It's helpful if that's what you're doing. You're worried about every move, and really you don't know what's going to happen to you anyway. So I don't know. I just thought that's a nice example of a nice little story from him. And he's got a million others. Has
a million. He does talk.
Yeah, go on, James.
No, he does talk about that a lot, doesn't he? That idea of letting go. And I remember because he uses water a lot, which is maybe kind of the link to Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee's "Be water, my friend."
Water can flow or it can crash.
Be water, my friend.
You put water into a teapot, it becomes a teapot. Yeah, sorry, man.
That's Bruce Lee, not Alan Watts. Alan Watts was actually born just down the road from us. Do you know that, Den?
In Kent, wasn't it? I
think he's from Godalming. It's near Guildford.
Really?
Yeah. But yeah, he talks about the idea a lot about letting go, and he uses water. And one of the images that he offered was very powerful. He was talking about if you try and struggle, it's like trying to struggle in water. It's like trying to grab the water in order to stay afloat. Mm-hmm. Whereas it's ridiculous because the harder you try and grab the water, the quicker you'll drown. Mm. So what you need to do in the water, as in life, is just relax, and that's when you float, and that's when you're okay. And I think the idea in Buddhism is Krishna, which is, he keeps mentioning it. He mentioned it again and again and again in his audio book. Well, it's the book, of course, but I listened to it, which was called The Way of Zen. It's available on YouTube, actually. It's about 7 hours, but obviously you break it down into as many chunks as you want. And that's grabbing, instead of just accepting and being patient. It's like grabbing at water. It doesn't get you anywhere. It's the opposite, actually.
I like all these, I like all these stories they tell about the Buddhist, the monk training, the Zen training that they do, and the masters. They play all these funny little games with the students about how they can never quite get to the point of what they're getting at. They're trying to get it too much, and that's not the point. It's almost something that's not. I don't know. It gets so tricky to understand, but like, when you hear these metaphors over and over, it does all start to make sense, and I think that's what's powerful about them. You can tell you here and now what the point he's trying to get across is, But when you listen to these metaphors, they're more powerful because they actually, like we were saying the other day about Peterson's version of religion, the metaphors are templates for things, and that's oftentimes more helpful because when you come up against new situations, it's kind of attitudes towards things rather than a set way to do things, which is what he actually slags off religion quite a lot, Alan Watts, in a lot of his talks, because I think that's what he thinks they try to do. They kind of give you this set of rules and say, look, you have to live life by this. But yeah, I guess he thinks these metaphors kind of help, and these little lessons that I guess it's a lot about thinking on your feet as well. You know, every situation needs a different answer, is unique and needs a different answer, and that's the kind of things that they try and get across. I remember another one I liked, which always seems to fall flat, but here we go, I'm going to tell you anyway, was it was a story about two monks, and they were walking along in the forest, and they came across a lady trying to cross the dam, and without hesitation one of the monks picks her up and carries her through the river and drops her at the other side, and the two monks get off on their way, and like an hour or two down the road, the one monk turns to the other monk and he says, you realise you broke the rules of the monastery there, you're not meant to touch a woman. He says, and you picked her up and took her across the water. And he says, yeah, but I put her down back there, you're still carrying her. The other monk says to him, I put her down, you're still carrying her. You know, and I guess the message there is that, you know, there's time to break the ruls, isn't there? That's maybe what he should have done, and he did it. And yeah, I thought that was a powerful little one as well.
Also, the message there, I think, is to leave events in the past and not carry them around with you like a heavy bag of stones, which isn't easy. But
yeah, man. Hopefully, we're given enough little examples that someone might go and let Alan do. We butchered Alan's work, so hopefully they might go and listen to him and have these full ideas hashed out. But definitely, I would even say it. Found out about his work in a time when I needed to hear it. You know, when I was getting caught up in the ways of life and you know, in all these Western pursuits, you know, of trying to get money and all this sort of thing, and it kind of gives you a good step back and a good perspective on things and how it's all a myth anyway. And it talks a lot about money and the myth of success, and you know, you get enough money and then all you do is turn around, all you do is worry that you're going to get sick, and then you know, you stop worrying about getting sick and you worry about revolution, and there's always a worry. It's just human nature.
That's what, that's it. I think he quoted Kierkegaard there, that anxiety is at the core of every human experience or every human mind. So you're going to worry about something else anyway, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, which is, yeah.
But would the two of you say that he is more of a translator of Buddhist philosophies and Eastern philosophies and an amplifier and the promoter of it? Or does he also change it and maybe adapt it to Western civilization? Because I hear people complain, for example, about yoga, that the yoga we know here has nothing to do with the yoga that's actually being taught in India or you know, at its origins, and that it has been westernized. And so would you say he's been true to the original message, or has he kind of created his own thing and added his own thoughts on top of what he learned on his travels?
So when you get a Chinese takeaway and these dishes don't even exist in China.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't even have sweet and sour chicken balls in China, do they? That's an English tradition. I don't think I'm qualified to say so, really.
Nor am I.
You only ever read a Western interpretation of these things, but it's a really good question. Yeah, I wonder whether he. I mean, my gut feeling is I think they liked what Alan Watts used to say, I guess, but I don't know. I'm just pulling that out of thin air. Either way, I mean, I guess they're two. Not polar opposites, but they're two different ways of living. So I guess you've got to give a little bit to explain it to the Western world, haven't you? It's not, you're not going to get the pure message without knowing the language, and something's going to get lost along the way, isn't it? But I mean, yeah, he stood the test of time, hasn't he? So I guess he's not one of these guys who's out here now and he's popular, is he? His work stood the test of time. I'm sure he'd have been called out if he was a bit of a fake from So yeah, Alan Watts, he a real one. Yeah, I think they like his teachings, but I don't know why I think that. It's a good question though. Yeah, maybe. I'm
it's a good
sure
question.
Yeah. Anything to add there, James?
Huh?
Anything to add?
No, there's just too much. There's too much of Alan Watts to do it a disservice and stuffing it into for 30 seconds. I just say check out a few videos on YouTube.
Well, the other thing I'll say is I reckon if you did check out some of his stuff on YouTube, you've probably heard it elsewhere, like with a bit of nice music in the background, and he's saying about how you should chill out a bit more and all that. But you listen to his stuff at length, definitely there's a lot to take from it, and it all makes a lot of sense. My dad was in hospital the other day, and he's fine now and everything. He's making a good recovery, but I was trying to get him to listen to a bit of it because I thought that's kind of the thing you want to hear when you're in a jam like that, I wanted to send him over the audio book so he could listen to, and yeah, it just puts things in perspective. Kind of takes your worry and frames it so you can kind of look at it objectively, and what good is your worry doing, and all this kind of thing. It's just helpful message, especially at certain points. It's good to hear, man. So
he's a big supporter of meditation as well, Mr. Alan Watts.
Yeah, the first example that you mentioned, it sounded very much like meditation, like not living in the future or in the past, but staying in the present. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. You have to sit there for 9 years, Sal, at the Bodhidharma.
At the what?
Hang on, let me get this right. The Bodhidharma, the Bodhidharma, one of the top meditators, top ranked.
He sat for 9 years.
I think it's a metaphor, but that's the story, yeah.
I hope
the
so.
Bodhidharma. Well, number one, he fell asleep during meditation, was angry with himself, so he cut his eyelids off. They fell to the ground, and from these eyelids, the first tea plants grew, and that's why monks now drink tea. The Bodhidharma. Number two, he sat so long in meditation that his legs fell off. Number three, he spent 9 years in a cave staring at a wall. There you go. So, something to start tomorrow.
Sounds like a fulfilled life. All right. I think we hit the 20 minutes mark.
Oh, we did.
Yeah. So, if you're interested, read up on Alan Watts, ladies and gentlemen. And if you're interested in our podcast, sign up for the Three-Headed Hydra. Today with James, Joshua, my name is Sal. Subscribe and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Why are we making these podcasts? Because 3 heads are better than 1. We'll combine our experiences and research on engaging topics to learn a bit more each time, enjoy the chat, and improve our own communication skills in the process. Innovation comes from the ability to correlate information between different realms of knowledge, and we all have very different realms of knowledge between the 3 of us.
Why the Hydra, you ask? In archetypal mythology, dragons guard piles of gold. Overcoming fears can bring great rewards. What you most need is often where you least want to look, and we won't shy away from the fire to challenge each other and reach that goal.
What's in it for you, listener? Learn, laugh and love. Get involved and join us on this adventure.